Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. My name is Dustin Cormier. Today we're watching another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today in particular, we're going to be going through the continuation of our series, talking about the moon in Sagittarius. This happens to be my own natal moon sign. I am happy and proud to say, as a Sagittarius moon would be. I'm a Tropical Vedic astrologer, so I abide by Western measurements, but I add Vedic philosophy to my rendition of what's going on with these combinations of the moon and Venus. In particular, today we're going to be talking about Sagittarius moon with Aries Venus. Now, there is a trine happening here, as we can see. Now, this trine isn't as deadly as some of the other combinations available. Like when Venus is in the 4th house, it's actually heavier. Venus being in the 4th house from the moon. Venus being in the 7th house and the 8th house and the 9th house are all hard-hitting areas. Really, the 5th house and the 10th or the 9th house are almost kind of the same. And I like to show this little graph just to give an idea of what this is all about. This comes from the ancient Vedic text called Parashara Horashastra. You can see this is the aspects, the special aspects that the Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus give in Vedic astrology. You can see the 4th house aspect is kind of tough, and then this is the 5th house aspect, and it might even be less powerful based on the actual angle of the moon to Venus. So you might not have that heavy of this aspect, but it will for sure, there's a possibility certainly that you can have the moon aspecting and therefore starving Venus. Venus has the moon for its enemy. In Vedic astrology, we talk about how really the reason for this is because Venus is a planet that we enjoy sharing ourselves with others. The moon is a planet of needs, of absolute needs. It's the Jivatman. It is the material, felt side of the Ajna chakra. It is something that we need to act on in order to manifest what is abundant and in order to connect to the energy grid of love and support from those around us. We need to apply the moon in order to really do everything that we need to do. So there's a need nature in the moon, whose nature ultimately will take the Venus's ability to reciprocate and share time and value and love in a truly compassionate and desirous way, a way of desiring to give to others. Usually it's because the moon enjoys too much of its own thing to tap into the consciousness of others, because the moon will enjoy its own nature, its own way of inspiring itself and giving itself regeneration. So, this is what happens when the moon starves Venus, and this will be happening likely at least a little bit in this combination. Not as harshly as some other situations, but it will be there. And I'm going to kind of talk about the importance of this, especially because the moon in Sagittarius is a precarious placement. I recommend, if you're interested in what I mean by that, check out my Sagittarius moon video. I did an hour on it, and it really gets into the nitty-gritty of why it is that the moon in Sagittarius can have difficulty. We're going to talk a bit about it in this video too. So, that's really kind of where we could probably start here. Just talking about the fact that the moon in Sagittarius is very independent. It's independent in the wrong way. Really, the big deal is that it's only one sign away from its debilitation point in Scorpio. The closer in proximity the moon is to Scorpio, the more inclined the person will be to not want help. I don't need it. I don't need others. I don't need the energy grid of the world around me in order to vitalize myself. Feels like the right thing to do when you have Sagittarius moon or Scorpio moon or Libra moon, like, those three especially. Feels like the correct thing to abide by because of, the feeling that I don't need anybody to feel good. I can just manifest a deep desire in my head and then find that desire through my own devices in reality, and we learn how to entertain ourselves by having Sagittarius or Scorpio or Libra moon. By being so close to Scorpio, there's this desire to not need others. The flip side of that is that you probably have spent all your time learning how to entertain yourself and to not how to bond and share the experience of enjoyable sentimental time with others. Really, Sagittarius moon is particularly volatile in this sense because it's close to Scorpio, the masculine side of the moon, and it's in the sign of Jupiter, which is a masculine planet rather. It's in the grouping with the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter, and even the Moon in certain ways. It's the aspects of the soul aspiration to manifest and embody the desires of the Sun. Remember, the Sun is what we do from 9 to 5. The Moon is what we are, who we emerge with and associate with. And the Moon is supposed to be catered to the Moon. If you have a good Moon, then you'll be able to balance your ambitions with the support that you need in order to sustain those ambitions. Moon in Sagittarius, by being in the sign of Jupiter, a masculine sign, a masculine planet, Jupiter's kind of all about the big ambitions, the big picture, the big desires for what the soul can do. And it's also in the masculine sign of this masculine planet. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. Pisces is closer to the exaltation in Taurus, and it's feminine, it's receptive, so it can kind of hear within itself as well as hear others and can listen to others. Sagittarius moon is just inclined not to listen to others, and so it can get caught in a limited framework of how it should best express its energy and its livelihood. So when we combine this with masculine Venus in Aries, there is a little bit of a tendency to be over-enriched in this sort of masculine energy. But Venus in Aries is in a neutral sign. Mars is neutral to Venus. And Venus here, one thing I should say is that Venus is trine to the moon. The moon damages Venus, but Venus does give the moon here its 9th house trine. So this helps the moon to understand its own needs, because Venus is a benefic. In Vedic astrology, we could put huge importance on the friendship and enemies of planets between each other when it comes to aspects, as well as when it comes to a planet in its sign. So I just wanted to say Venus being in trine to the moon helps give the moon a little bit of a sense of enjoying its own independence and enjoying its climb to whatever ambitions it's trying to move towards. But Venus here is in the sign of a neutral. Mars is neutral to Venus. So it's not an enemy, it's not a friend, and really wherever Mars is going to convey the strength of this Venus to be independent, to push for what it wants, and to push for the relationship. This is somebody who can really use the moon's idea of career and ambitions to network, to expand beyond the relationship. And Venus in Aries can be hard and true, just like how when you're like at a marketplace and let's say, and you want to get an item from somebody and you got to push to kind of haggle to get the best deal. Such a person with Venus in Aries can also kind of do that with the relationship. What's best for our relationship? How do I fight best to get what we need in our relationship? And lovers appreciate this about Venus and Aries. They have this sort of warrior, like, let's get what's best for us kind of mentality. Unfortunately, it's hard for this person to be appreciated for when they come out with this independent, hard bluntness. The reason is because the moon in Sagittarius, being so close to Scorpio, being in these masculine signs, already has a hard time lending itself to the mutuality that relationships really would require, right? The Venus in Aries is not really bad in itself. What's really happening here is that the moon is starving this Aries. And it's not terrible. You can still be this independent person, and you'll likely find a lover who loves you for it. And the moon is not angled hard enough to really make this a terrible, terrible thing. But I'm going to explain the evils behind this just so you can see it when it happens in your own reality, and so that you can be objective about it when it happens. Essentially, the moon in Sagittarius is such an independent thinker, such an independent, a person who independently recharges themselves by pushing recreationally and creatively towards its hobbies, towards its desires, towards progressing itself further in career. That's how the moon rests when it's in Sagittarius, which is not really how the moon is supposed to rest. That's what I've been saying in all these videos, is that the Vedic idea of the constitution of the chakras, one of the many ideas of the chakras, this is an important one that I get from Ernst Wilhelm. It's called the Panchatattvas. It's the essences of the five essences, tattvas. Mercury rules the earth tattva at the bottom chakra. It's the management of our material needs and purposes, and the balancing of procreative survival versus, I should say down, procreative survival versus spiritual thriving. The Mercury is the balance of that on the earth chakra. Venus and the moon rule the second chakra, the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra. And it's up to Venus and the moon to get this feeling that we, have support in our, going towards the Manipura chakra, the fire chakra, which is the sun and Mars. In order to go towards the sun and Mars, we need, water to help us climb up the mountain and to sustain ourselves on the way to pushing for our desired objectives in our career and our life goals. But also, not only does the water sustain us by us drinking it and helping us to sustain it, our ambitious energies, but also the water chakra is actually supposed to douse the fire chakra, to make you feel like there is something important related to the support of others that is at some levels equally important to the energy that you give to your ambitions in your career. Because life is not all about attaining your career. You might think that it is, but really you're tricking yourself, and you're not going to see the cosmic equilibrium that every soul has to abide by. This is the occult law of human metaphysics. If you feel like, I don't know, I think I can just be alone, isolated, and kind of just use people however, at my behest, and if they don't support me on my path after I parasitically absorb energy and love from them, well, whatever, and then you climb up, and eventually you're going to burn yourself out. It's like Icarus trying to get at the sun. If you want to really go as close to the sun as possible for as long as possible in order to feel the intensity of your dharmic purpose, you have to come down sometimes. Get away from the intensity and learn how to move yourself into the intensity at the right rhythm. And if you just go to the sun right away and stay there, you're going to burn up, and you are going to end up 50 years old having not been able to sustain your life energy and vitality the best way that you could, because you worked harder, not smarter. The moon teaches us to work smarter, not harder. It teaches us that 1 + 1 = 3 when we involve ourselves in the energy grid of others. So, because Sagittarius Moon, remember the Svadhisthana chakra is beheld by the moon and by Venus, the second chakra, the water chakra. Now your moon is inclined to basically kind of sap water energy from the relationship, from the person supporting you, and sort of take that and say, thank you, honey, I love you so much, and now I'm going to take this energy for us, I do it for us, and go and put it towards career, ambitions, some kind of pet project that you're building on that is going to increase your life and as well as the life of whoever you're with, because whatever is good for you is good for the relationship. But ultimately, it is your enjoyment of your own energy, of your own speaking, that is the narcissistic vice that hurts Sagittarius Moon at an energetic, instinctive level. It's almost like when you say anything, it's like you're just trying to put out the fire of anyone that's in your way from achieving your goal, including your lover, who sometimes is just asking for meaningful water and sentimental love and meaningful human connection for themselves, which you really ought to have, but your moon is not inclined to get it. So essentially, this is the reason why this moon starving Venus is a kind of a difficult thing for Sagittarius Moon with Venus and Aries. It's because the Sagittarius Moon, usually if someone has like Scorpio Moon or Sagittarius Moon, the placement of Venus can redeem it. It will have reasons to actually enjoy sharing love energy with the people around it. And those people will love the energy that you give out through your Venus, because your moon's not going to really do it instinctively. So the Venus energy is going to be something that, you actually enjoy, and it invigorates you. It gives you an erotic psyche boost so that when you go to your job, you've got somebody at home. You've got a sentimental, rich life experience at home, which allows you to be the politician at your best. It allows you to network and to use your expansive energy in your career that draws people to you. You'll only have that if you actually have a rich sentimental experience at home or with the people around you. It sounds almost narcissistic to put it that way, but this is just how the moon close to Scorpio works. There's a deep desire to purge and glorify one's own feeling of not really being sentimentally lovable, because you don't work on what can I do with my lover that would be fun and exciting. You just mostly work on how can I progress myself in my career and etc. So Venus in Aries here is kind of being sapped by the moon in Sagittarius, and Venus in Aries usually wants to be appreciated for its bluntness, right? It wants to be appreciated for being objective and independent. It's kind of like telling your partner, like, you got a little bit of spinach here, honey, like to be that kind of person, or to say, usefully in a relationship, to say important things that have to do with the marriage. It's like you're buying a house with your marriage partner and you've got an idea that's a good idea. Let's say you've got Venus and Aries and you're blunt and you say, honey, I really don't think that we should have this house in this neighborhood because it's a bad neighborhood, and if we want to have kids at some point, like this is just going to be a bad thing. Your partner has to think in their head, is this person actually giving me objective data, or are they just trying to manipulate the situation and make it look like they're trying to meet me in the middle? But really it's the Sagittarius moon who wants to live in this area because it's close to their job and their career or something. You know, like this is close to my factory where I can work and do my thing. And so maybe the partner is thinking like, are the objective facts you're giving me really true, or are you just trying to push for your own thing? You know that you're in this moment, okay, this isn't me being Sagittarius Moon, this is me actually saying I think that this is a bad area for us to go. But your partner's always going to be wondering how cohesive you really are in the marriage because you put so much energy into your own thing. This is why Venus in Aries is starved by the moon in this situation, where you can't be appreciated fully for your independent, objective, clear, wry, humorous spontaneity in the way that you ought to be by having Venus in Aries. Your blunt capacity to call a spade has an inner filter, even in you, because you're not bonded with the partner at the moon level. You might even attract people because of your bluntness and your hardness and your ability to call a shot, to be with a bunch of people and say, all right, everybody, honestly, I think we should do this. And you might find a lover that goes, you know, I love that in that person. I love that they just are so real and so blunt and so honest. And they're attracted to you because you can be so blunt and so honest. Now they get with you, and all of a sudden they find that you are afraid of being too blunt. You're afraid of being callous and direct and spontaneous. Because probably in past relationships, you've been blunt or callous or whatever, and your partner knew that you weren't bonded to them at the moon level. Which means that your blunt callousness sometimes is actually, it's not coming from a place that's for the relationship. It's that you don't listen. You'll just say the blunt thing, and then your partner will respond, and then you will get frustrated that you aren't right, or that that the partner's just not meeting you at your will. It's an unconscious thing, especially with these two being in masculine signs. So what starts to happen is that this Venus in Aries is starved by the moon, where the moon in you sometimes will just end up not saying anything because you're afraid to be blunt and callous and direct, because the partner is always going to question, is this person coming from a place of authenticity, or are they coming from a place of selfish, willful manipulation to manipulate the conversation? And sometimes you're not. I mean, we can see by the fact that this is only a 5th house aspect. So there will be a lot of times where you can objectively blend into the relationship. Especially, we have to consider here that there's so many other things that define the strength and the capacity for the moon to do what the moon's supposed to do. Because the moon and Venus, is supposed to connect at the water level, actually compassionately merge with the people around them, and have objective, grounding experiences that would connect each other. Usually for Venus and Aries, it's like the enjoyment. You probably are with a partner who you almost enjoy sparring with. And it's genuine, especially in this combination. The angle isn't that bad. You probably genuinely enjoy sparring or intellectually sparring with your partner. And this kind of connection is like something that you give to them, where you could be working away at your own thing, but you're like, you know what? I'm actually going to just talk with my partner right now. There's a million things I could be doing, but let's shoot the shit, honey. Like, let's talk about this fun thing. And that's genuine water. That bonds you in a way that it's dousing your Svadhisthana, your Manipura chakra, your fire chakra, so that you don't burn yourself out in your life. That's what Venus and the moon are supposed to be cultivating. And here, it's a kind of half and half thing. The moon is already quite weak, which means Venus needs to compensate, and Venus is also kind of getting drained here. Thankfully, Venus is close to Pisces, or it's exalted, so you will have compassion enough to look within, to understand that you have a will that wants to be reciprocated. And you'll know that if you reciprocate your partner, they will reciprocate you, and that will leave the path open to more of your will being supported and more of your drive being finalized. It's a tactical mind that this Venus in Aries has, where it's like it's a, you know, it's almost like there's a war situation, and your partner is like a general, and you have to know the psyche of your general and your infantrymen, and you know that you kind of have to cater to them. You have to treat them well in order for them to do what you want them to do. It sounds super whack, I guess. Maybe I'm Sagittarius Moon, and I'm also Sun, Mars, Scorpio, so maybe that's where this is coming from. But a metaphor is a metaphor. There's a tactical mind in the Venus in Aries that can see the need for reciprocation in relationships, mainly because it's so close to Pisces. That's kind of where that comes from. So you can be saved here, but keep in mind that you still have to work on your ability to genuinely be receptive to your partner's needs in this type of combination. And it will serve you to do so. Because remember, the water planets teach us to work smarter, not harder. And you might not be inclined to know what that smarter way is if you've never looked outside the framework of your own mental conditionings and tendencies to be an isolated strategizer alone. Many hands make light work. 2 heads are better than 1. Now, I always give my own sort of spiel. Now I'd like to tune us into Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. Here we're going to be talking in a sort of more lighthearted way about the Moon in Sagittarius with Venus in Aries. A whirlwind of passion surrounds you as your impetuous nature propels you into acts of romantic daring. It's definitely true of the Venus in Aries, just likes to just go for it for its own sake. For you, good sex includes innovation as well as much excitement as you can generate. The Sag Moon likes to innovate and try many varieties of things, and the excitement is just pure Venus in Aries. Laughable, like rolling on the ground with the person laughing at something, and then woof, coming right into it again. There's a giddiness to this nature that people have to have some kind of fire to really appreciate the giddiness that this kind of combination can bring out. In bed and out, you're more aware of your own feelings than those of your significant other. And you may not realize when your partner is unable to keep up with you. This is more of that vacuum of not perceiving the other partner because of the possibly narcissistic nature of Sagittarius Moon, at its worst at least. Your intense vitality and love of adventure sets such a hectic pace that your mate can often do little more than hang on for dear life. Although you give yourself wholeheartedly to love, your restlessness and impatience may cause you to leave if you feel stifled. That's true of this person, especially because the possibility of the moon starving Venus. But, you know, the Sagittarius independence nature can be very blunt and say, you know what, screw this, I need to leave. And sometimes this is part of what Sagittarius Moon needs. Sag Moon often operates at this sort of, if you love me, set me free. If it were meant to be, I will come back to you. And maybe this is something you might want to communicate. Depends on the nature of your relationship. Ultimately, it's good to be honest about your nature, but don't hold on to your ideas of how your partner is going to take that honesty. If they say, I understand that you are of this independent nature and that you could just leave anytime, but it makes me feel like you're not fully committed or you're not fully there, talk with them about it. Just communicate about it. It might be painful, but this is something that I ultimately think, in my experience as a Sagittarius Moon, it's been healthy for me to talk about it with my partners. Everyone's got to do it in their own different ways. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. My name is Dustin Cormier. Thank you so much for watching. This is How to Rock Astrology. Stay tuned because I always got more stuff happening. Feel free to leave me a comment and let me know what you think about this video. And thank you very much for watching.